Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sports Daily College Basketball Podcast. This is episode 86, recorded here on December 18th, 2024. I'm your host, Sean Vowells, and as usual, I'm joined by Mike Koomar. Today, Mike and I will recap some of the games that have ended here on Tuesday night and preview a couple of the good games on Wednesday and then Saturday. Going to be a little bit of a shorter episode here. But, Mike, Jumpman Invitational in Charlotte, North Carolina. Game 1 just went final. It was the Florida Gators against the North Carolina Tar Heels. Carolina needed it, came into this game 6-4, and they didn't get it. Florida takes this one 90-84. An extremely up and down one here. Florida up by 12 at halftime. North Carolina came all the way back to take the lead, but it's the Gators who improved to 11-0 and get across the line. Did this game tell you more about Florida or North Carolina?
Yeah, well, I think it for me shows that it was an unimpressive game for both teams. Look, Florida had an easy chance to get out here in the second half and take care of business and crush North Carolina. They didn't. They lost it all. They gave North Carolina the lead. North Carolina had a chance to close out this game and get their first signature win of the season. They did not. They fell apart coming down the stretch. They only had 2 points in the last 2 minutes and 45 seconds of this game. So not able to convert on offense coming down the stretch. It would have been really impressive because at one point Florida did have a 16-point victory or a 16-point lead. But at the end of the day, they're not able to seal the deal. For Florida, you look at, one, offense was cooking early on in this game. They got cold there. That's to be expected. You can't expect to shoot the daylights out of the ball for the entire game. But I'm really concerned about how much work North Carolina was able to put on offense in this game, especially because North Carolina is not an incredibly impressive offensive juggernaut. They did out-rebound North Carolina by plus 10 in this one, but being able to make 33 field goal attempts, it's concerning that they were able to get that many easy shots in.
And for Florida, Mike, this is similar to our Oklahoma conversation in the last video, but they are undefeated. They are in the SEC. They haven't quite played anybody of the elite caliber yet. Like, North Carolina might be the best team that Florida's played. They looked good, and then it looked like they were going to lose to a heroic R.J. Davis effort, but they get themselves across the line. Are they on the Kentucky, Auburn, Alabama level, or are they a step below in the Oklahoma level?
No, not right now. I think probably their most impressive win thus far this year was a 17-point win against Arizona State. That game was pretty dominant in this one. However, yeah, not a whole lot of – they beat Power 5 teams. Don't get me wrong.
There's an argument they haven't played a tournament team yet, though, including North Carolina.
Florida State's not a tournament team. Wake Forest is not a tournament team. Wichita State's not a tournament team. Nor is Virginia, nor is North Carolina. I think the only team that's close to a tournament team is Arizona State. They won pretty easily in that one. But, yeah, they're the 7th team in the country, and they will get to conference play without playing a signature team. I think there's a clear top tier in this conference right now. It's clearly Auburn. It's clearly Alabama. It's clearly Kentucky and Tennessee for that matter.
Yeah.
But after that top 4, I think there is a pretty significant drop-off, given that next tier of teams is really good, but they're not national championship contending good. And I think Florida right now appears to be one of those teams.
And, Mike, I think those 4 in the top, I think tier 2, really good teams, not elite, are Arkansas, Florida, Oklahoma,
Ole Miss.
maybe Ole Miss, Texas A&M. And then the drop below that is teams that want to sneak into the tournament, Mississippi State, Missouri, Vanderbilt. And then you get into you're probably on the outside looking in now in Texas and South Carolina. But, man, this league is stacked. And how about this start to SEC play, Mike, for Florida? On the road at Rupp Arena, home to Tennessee, on the road at Bud Walton Arena. You might get out of there 1-2 and not feel so bad about that.
Yeah, we'll figure out real quick how good this Florida team is.
If they get more than one of those 3, they might be really, really good.
They're better than we thought.
I think they come out of there 1-2, and it's not the end of the world. In fact, they might be okay with that.
No, I mean they're going to show up to conference play and they're going to be 13-0. So they don't need to be heroes in conference play to get a top four seed in the bracket. So yeah, I mean they could go get three losses, and if they're all competitive losses, you know we look at them and we say, hey, they're probably still a top 15 team. It does get easier for them after that, right? They
Yeah.
go play Missouri at home, Texas at home, out South Carolina, Georgia at home to close out January. So we'll always reserve judgment if they lose three games and they're all tight. But more to follow on Florida. They could lose all three games by double digits. And then we think, oh, man, they're not who we thought they were.
Yeah, and Mike, I think getting one of those three is so important because like those last I think you're going to be underdogs in 3 games in a row and they're going to be favorites for 4 games in a row. So what does that look like? Are you 4-3? Are you 5-2? I think you're probably okay with either of those, but if you're coming into that Missouri game on a 3-game losing streak, Missouri's not a bad team. They're good enough to win that game. So potential
Absolutely.
a bunch of storylines to watch out for the Gators here as we move on to they don't North Florida and Stetson, two in-state opponents. They shouldn't have any trouble there. So all eyes for them are going to be on the SEC. All right, Mike, we have another game that is not quite final yet tonight. So let's hold on until that game does go final. Let's
Yeah.
preview a couple of the games tomorrow. We've got Big East play starting, but first, game 2 of this Jumpman Invitational. I'm not sure why they don't play them one after the other. It's been a couple years in a row now where it's just the next day. But it's
Weird.
Oklahoma against Michigan. We talked about the Sooners, about potentially not being elite. They still are undefeated. And Michigan, a team that's been pleasantly surprising this year at 8-2 with a couple big victories. But Mike, this one's a big one for me. We kind of know what Michigan is. They're pretty good. They're not amazing, but they're probably a top 20 team at this point. And with Oklahoma, really the jury is still out. So what are you looking for in this one?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really interesting game. Obviously our friend Joe Mead is going to know more about Michigan than I will, but I will say this has got to be feeling pretty good if you're a Michigan fan to see Dusty May's first 10 games be as positive as they've been. Yeah, they lost their second game of the season to Wake Forest. They've looked a hell of a lot better since then. So that had a tough loss in the Jimmy V Classic to Arkansas. But like we said, we know what Michigan is made of. What I'm really curious in this game to look out for is how much production Michigan can get from some of their top players. So looking at Golden, Danny Wolf, Roddy Gay, looking to see what kind of production they can get. They got a lot of points again for all of these players against Arkansas in the Jimmy V Classic. Are they going to be able to hold up this production? And also for Michigan, look, Oklahoma's got a really good offense. We know that already. Are they going to be able to hold them from scoring? We haven't really seen that the last couple of games. They allowed 83 points to Iowa and 89 to an Arkansas team that isn't that good of a scoring team. So is Michigan going to have it on defense to be able to lock up Oklahoma and win this game? My pick right now is going to be the Wolverines, and that's just because I don't think Oklahoma has played that tough of a schedule yet. I don't think they've played this talented of a team, and I think Michigan's going to take it to them.
Yeah, the Michigan defense numbers-wise was elite early on. It was top 5. And then since the last 2 games, it has ballooned up to 15th. So it is still good, but it is trending in the wrong direction. I just don't think they're going to be able to stop this 4-5 action between Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden. They essentially run the offense through their power forward, and it's a empty side pick and roll, and then a triangle screen and roll. Like Moser is a good enough X and O's coach to maybe figure something out, but coaches that are better than Moser haven't yet this year. The reason Arkansas won is they made a ton of shots and they were just able to hold on. I do think Michigan probably wins this game. We know how they would lose as they turn over the ball a ton and get carved up in sort of the half-court setting where Michigan can't get into transition situations. And I think Michigan is going to win by just having the 2 best players on the floor in Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden. But on the flip side, Mike, Jeremiah Fears for Oklahoma, he could have a huge game too. Not Wisconsin. Michigan plays a lot of drop coverage. I could see him having 25 pretty easily. So this will be one that I'm watching for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is going to be an exciting one of the best games for the rest of the week. But like you, I like the Wolverines.
All right, we have a couple of Big East games tomorrow. Xavier goes on the road to UConn as the Huskies look to continue their winning ways. It's Butler going on the road to Marquette. Both teams coming off of a loss here. Mike, are you looking for anything in particular here on night one of the Big East?
Look, I'm looking to see if UConn can keep the good times rolling here against Xavier. Xavier's a quietly good team. They've played pretty good basketball. Had kind of a heartbreaking loss on Saturday against a really good Cincinnati team. One of those other really good games we didn't get to talk about in the last podcast. But seeing if the bigs for UConn can remain dominant, they've been dominant. They were really good against Baylor and getting the Bears into foul trouble. And then even though Caravan did not have a good game against Gonzaga, the bigs were still dominant for UConn without him. So looking to see if they can continue to have that good times rolling. And then for Marquette, just being able to see how good they can respond after a pretty disappointing loss last week to Dayton.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Big East now. Big East doesn't do the sort of 2 games in the conference, then you go back to non-con, then back to conference. For Big East teams now, it is conference play. Now, a couple teams do have a bye game after Christmas. Not really sure why, but most teams in the Big East are in conference for the rest of the way. So should be pretty interesting in a league, Mike, that we have said multiple times it's not very good. So somebody does have to win the Big East, but we think the 2 best teams are going to be in action here on night one. All right, a weird one. Alabama goes on the road to North Dakota. Now, I did some research on why they're playing this game.
Grant Nelson, North Dakota.
Grant Nelson is from North Dakota.
Yeah, there it is.
He's from near Grand Forks, which is where UND is, but he used to play for North Dakota State. So just an all-around weird situation, really. North Dakota is not very good, so I don't know if we'll see sort of a Kennesaw State-Rutgers situation here. But, Mike, if you're Alabama here, this is just a really weird game where you don't really have anything to gain. So hopefully they can go in and Grant Nelson could impress in front of what's likely to be a number of family and friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like Alabama hasn't played any tough road games this year already. They played at Mackey Arena. We've talked about how difficult it is to play and win there. They got the job done. They won handily at the Dean Smith Arena at UNC. So this is a team that has played road games, unlike Rutgers when they played Kennesaw. Alabama is also a really good team, and North Dakota is really not a good team.
Yeah, they're 27-point road favorites. I'm not sure we've ever seen that before.
Yeah, I don't know. 27 points seems to be a lot for going. But like you said, it's a weird game. You're not going to have too many direct flights that are going from Birmingham, Alabama to North Dakota. So given they're taking a charter plane, I assume. But this is definitely not your run-of-the-mill typical road visit for the Crimson Tide. So I still don't think they're going to struggle, though.
No, and North Dakota State, Grant Nelson's former team, has been pretty good in the Summit League over the years. They're sitting at 112 in Ken Pom right now. I'm sure Alabama would much rather be going to play them because North Dakota is 302 in Ken Pom, one of the worst defenses in the country. Mike, I think there's a chance Alabama puts up 120 here.
This has definitely got a 100-burger written all over it.
I don't expect them to take this lightly because of such a disadvantage off the rip to get to where they need for their numbers not to suffer. And I'm sure North Dakota will have some people there. I don't know if it's break there. It might be, but just a really weird situation all around for Grant Nelson and Alabama. All right, we've got a big game on Friday night here, Mike. Another sort of Ohio rivalry. Cincinnati just got across the line against Xavier in a game that they were losing for most of. Now they're sort of hosting Dayton. This is at the Heritage Bank Center in Cincinnati, which my research shows that it's the AHL Hockey Affiliates Arena. It is not the Cincinnati Bearcats Arena.
Interesting.
So it is a neutral court game. Dayton about 45 minutes up the road, coming down for a neutral court game. Mike, you get away from UNLV, you beat Marquette. Dayton's got another chance to pull off a really impressive non-conference victory. And in terms of Cincinnati here, they kind of got punched in the mouth in their first big game of the year against Villanova. They did get away from Xavier with a rather lucky victory there. But in terms of Cincinnati, it's another good opportunity for a non-conference victory here. So Cincinnati's going into a loaded Big 12. Dayton, this is their final chance for a big victory. So what are you going to see here?
I'm actually going to go with the Flyers in this one. Cincinnati, I'm still not convinced that they're a top 25 team. They had that stunning loss to Villanova. Given Villanova's looked a little bit better, and they had that the razor thin win over Xavier, a game that it kind of feels like they stole, Sean.
They were losing the entire game pretty much
Yeah,
to the last
you look
couple
at
plays.
Dayton. Given they just stole a game themselves against UNLV, but UNLV is a good team, and they're coming off a huge win against Marquette last Saturday. So I like the Flyers to get the job done in this Friday night clash in Ohio. They've just looked really impressive to me so far.
I think for Dayton, it's a really good opportunity to sort of put this close call behind them and win another big game. Um, Cincinnati probably doesn't have to win it. They're going to have numerous games in the Big 12 that can move the needle. And in terms of Dayton, this is their last sort of barometer, really, until a couple of their big A10 games. If they win this, Mike, I think we're looking at protected seed. If they
Yeah,
lose this and then, maybe trip up in the A10 and get third or something, then they're probably going to be an 8, 9, or 10 seed. So this game means a whole lot to Dayton. I do think they do get the job done. They've got the Atlantic 10 finds its way, Mike, into a weird spot in college basketball where very few people consider it a mid-major league, but also it's outside of the Power 5. This roster is a Power 5 roster. Zed Key, Nate Santos, Enoch Cheeks, Malachi Smith. Those four players would probably be starting on a lot of teams, and Anthony Grant is as good as it gets as a coach. But for Dayton, Mike, this will be huge for what we think about them the rest of the way.
yeah. One thing that's kind of funny to talk about, or fun to talk about. You look at the top teams in 2020 that were cut short by COVID. It was the Baylor Bears won the national championship the following year, Kansas Jayhawks, who won the championship after that, San Diego State, who went to the championship game the year after that. The only team that really hasn't, that had the most to lose from that COVID season, is the Dayton Flyers. So maybe Dayton can finally avenge the heartbreak that was the COVID season for them, and be able to get to being an elite team. You look at the start of their play in the Atlantic 10, and you got to think that they've got a really good chance to get off to a hot start in this conference. You look at the toughest games that they've got, Loyola Chicago, St. Joseph's. These are all home games. Their toughest road game, really, throughout the end of January is going to be at St. Bonaventure. That will be a really tough game. They also go on the road to St. Louis. That could be a tough one too. But you look at the entire season; those are going to be their toughest two, and then a road game against Loyola Chicago at the end of the year. They can get 2 out of those 3. I think you like your chances for the Dayton Flyers to take this conference and potentially nab a top 3, top 2 seed in the big dance.
Yeah, they've got certainly a chance. Marquette, that win will likely age well. UConn, that win will likely age well. There's a chance, Mike, that if Dayton kind of wins all the A10 games, which is possible, that they might be really high up. And
Yeah.
starts with a victory here against Cincinnati. All right, we do have a pretty epic slate on Saturday here, Mike. Maybe not as good as last Saturday. We've got some ACC play, more Big East play, and then we do have a couple of big non-conference games. Those are going to be the ones that we're going to talk about here. The CBS Sports Classic at Madison Square Garden, on at the same time as the College Football Playoff and the NFL, which is unfortunate for them. But it's
Yeah.
UCLA going to face North Carolina. UCLA has been really good this year, 9-1, and North Carolina, Mike, is 6-5, and in desperate need of a big victory. Not sure there'll be really a fan advantage here with the schools traveling from pretty far away, but North Carolina really needs this, and UCLA probably doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, what's been so impressive about UCLA so far is their defense on the year. They've only been giving up 50, 60 points a game. A game that they did give up 70 points to, that was against Oregon, and they won that game. That's the only game other than Idaho State that they've given up 70 points or more. So, looking at how good they are defensively, they've got some really quality bigs in this game. And you look at North Carolina, that is a scoring offense. This is a team that, despite their inabilities to win some big games, they've put up numbers. They've had 79 against Alabama. They put up 93 against LaSalle. They put up 84 this past tonight against Florida. So how does North Carolina's high-powered offense go against a defensive juggernaut that UCLA's been this year? We'll see what happens, but I like UCLA just by the numbers. 55 points a game allowed this year, and it's not like they're playing a super cupcake schedule so far. They've had a couple of great Big Ten wins to get them to where they are right now.
Yeah, North Carolina is very reliant on their guards to score. They haven't gotten anything really from the forward spot this year. I think UCLA's guards are going to make it really tough on them, and I think it'll be a game that's probably a little closer than it should be, but I expect UCLA to win this by double digits. All right, Mike, we've got another game here in Game 2 of the CBS Sports Classic that features a rather desperate team and a team that's really good. Ohio State at 6-4 plays Kentucky. Kentucky comes in with a 4 next to their name. They're rolling. They're at 10-1 with their sole loss being on the road to Clemson. And it's Ohio State, Mike, that might be feeling the season slip away here as they start to, they've looked pretty bad in a couple of games with some really, really large margins of defeat. But you got a really good chance to pick up a good win here. So, again, not sure really if the fan situation is going to be tilted either way. Both fan bases travel relatively well. But with Ohio State playing football just a couple hours after this game, those fans certainly won't be that tuned into this one. But, Mike, anything other than a Kentucky win here will be pretty surprising.
Yeah, I mean, look, Bruce Thornton has got to have a big game. He's a 3 year starter for Ohio State, their star guard, and when he struggled, his team struggles even more. You look at that Auburn game; he had just 3 points in that one in 33 minutes of play. You look at the games that they have won and they've looked good in um, against Rutgers, their first conference win of the year, 22 points in that one. So if he can get hot, this game can stay close. But yeah, I think this is pretty dead set on a Kentucky victory.
Yeah, Kentucky's step might just be too much for Ohio State, who um, will be getting Aaron Bradshaw back, but still, they're definitely a couple of bodies short. All right, Mike. The last one we're going to preview is at the Birmingham or the Legacy Arena at BJCC in Birmingham, Alabama. It's Purdue going pretty much on the road to face Auburn. Purdue has played a really tough non-conference schedule. They do sit at 8-3 with losses to Alabama, Marquette. No, sorry, they beat Alabama, Marquette, Northwest, Penn State, and Texas A&M. And we have Auburn, who's looked really, really good, might be the best team in the country. With a majority of Tigers fans here, Mike, you'd have to think Auburn should take care of business here.
Yeah, you looked at Purdue. They had such a solid month of November in this one. Yeah, they had that blemish at Marquette, but overall, nice win over Ole Miss, a nice win over Alabama. They looked really good. They have not been rolling once the clock turned to December, and they've been really shaky. That loss to Penn State, kind of inexcusable. Obviously, we'll see how Penn State is the rest of the year, but I don't think they're really all that good.
Yeah,
So
they were down by 28 at one point in that game too.
exactly.
They
This game
made it
was never
11.
even close.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Auburn's going to win. It's a matter of how big it will be. Maybe they can stick around a little bit. Purdue does have some size that can work against Johnny Bruin, but yeah, I think Auburn's going to get the job done in this one. Probably win by 10 points.
In terms of what you do to beat this Purdue team, Mike, I think Auburn has that. You have athletic guards, you have ball pressure, you make Trey Kaufman-Renn guard the 5. He's like maybe 6'8". I think Broom eats 20-20 at least, and Purdue certainly I think could hang around and will not go down easy, but I have Auburn with a convincing sort of wire-to-wire victory here. All
Yeah,
right,
I agree.
Mike, tons of other games on Saturday. We're going to check back to the game that we were waiting to go final, and it has. Back to Tuesday night here. It is South Carolina picking up a big victory against Clemson. The Gamecocks get to 8-3. Clemson drops to 9-3. Colin Murray Boyles with 22 as South Carolina picks up their first really impressive win of the season, Mike. With how good the SEC is, South Carolina needed this one, and they got it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really came down to a free throw shooting contest at the end. And kudos to South Carolina. They made their free throws in this game. They got the job done. They amassed a pretty big lead at one point, leading by 7 points in this overtime period. Clemson fought back, but at the end of the day, it wasn't going to be enough. Shout out to the Gamecocks. After surrendering a pretty hefty lead in the first half in this one, um, they were able to respond and recover well, get a very good, huge quality win against the Clemson team. Clemson's slipping now. Um, it's two overtime losses back to back. So we'll see how this affects them. They're probably going to drop out of the top 25 after this one. And then they start conference play right away. This Saturday, they start against Wake Forest and then Stanford. So Clemson's going to be fine. They've got that signature win at home against Kentucky. And as long as they can kind of do their own thing in the ACC, they'll have no issues getting a 5 seed or better in the NCAA tournament.
And Mike, for Clemson, that Kentucky win could have been a springboard. You would
Yeah.
think that they should have won at home against Memphis, and they probably should have won on the road here. They don't. They put together a pretty spirited comeback, and most of the time, when home underdogs throw the first punch and the away team sort of chips away and gets closer and closer, and then it's a close game at the end, you would think usually the better team wins those games, but not here. South Carolina picks up a big victory, and Mike, you never know, really, for South Carolina. I think the odds are certainly stacked against them, but nobody gave them half a chance last year, and they were able to pick up enough SEC victories to be the sixth seed in the NCAA tournament. So South Carolina needed this one. They got it, and Clemson got to bounce back with a victory against Wake Forest.
Yeah, and I think you look at the character of the South Carolina team. Clemson banked a 3-pointer off balance from the corner to send this game into overtime. That can send teams into a frenzy as they're getting into this. Hey, you should have won the game. Now you got to play an extra 5 minutes. But South Carolina, they showed up in the first overtime, and they dominated. And then were able to make their free throws coming down the stretch to win. So, got to feel good for the Gamecocks to get this win.
All right, well, that is all we have from today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please be sure to check out our other videos. We have a number of college football playoff previews coming out, and then recaps once those games go final. A couple other creative basketball videos coming here as the games start to slow down a little bit as the holidays come near. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.